like taking back, people always ask me, why did you get into accounting? Like, why would you choose that? And for me, it was just very natural. Like in high school, I loved math. Um, I love like puzzles, that kind of stuff. So I took a couple of accounting classes in high school. They were so easy for me. So I'm like, I'm just going to become an accountant. And so I went through schooling, got all that, and worked at a few smaller firms as I got my CPA license. That took a couple of years to get that. And then I just continued working as an employee, like kind of like status quo. Things were great. And then I don't know, something triggered me that I was like, okay, I should think about having my own business rather than just working for somebody else. And so I was working at a firm that he didn't want to take on a partner. He was just happy with what it was like. But he allowed me to open my own firm and build my practice on the side as I worked for him. So that doesn't happen very often. And I am so appreciative to him. I still talk with him. He's like a mentor to me. But he allowed me to grow this firm and while I worked for him. So a couple years ago, I got too busy where I couldn't work for him anymore. So moved 100% on my own and have been building it ever since. And then probably 4 years ago, I came across Profit First. I had saw people talking about it on social media. I'm like, "Ah, I should listen to this book because I listen to books. I don't really like reading. So I listened to it and I signed up to become a Profit First professional without even finishing the book because it was like a light bulb moment for me. I needed something for my business, even as an accountant. Yes, I needed something for my business that just helped me manage the actual cash flow. Like, what should I be doing with this chunk of cash that's sitting in my company? But then it was all of the clients that I meet with every like once a year go over their financial statements, their taxes, and they look at me with blank stare like, how am I profitable and owe taxes when I have no money in the bank account? And it just, they were successful in terms of their P&L and it looked great, but they were so strapped for cash and they didn't understand why. And to be honest, my accounting background, like we could like explain it to them, but it was always goes over their head and it still didn't make sense to them. But Profit First, like it really it breaks it down and it's almost like that bridge between what's sitting in your bank account and what's on your financial statement. So ever for the last 4 years, I've implemented it in my business and have been working with clients to get it with them. And I love that. I love the cash flow management way more than the basic financial statements and tax, just because I feel like that's what business owners are truly looking for when they come to talk to their accountant. They want to know, how do I grow my bank account? Like, yes, obviously that comes with growing the business, but at the end of the day, we need cash. Cash is king. So if we're spending it and even though we have sales on the P&L, but we got no cash in the bank, we're no better off. So they I feel like a business owners that's more key to them, and I really like working with them for that.
I love it. I love it. And fast forward to today, you have your own firm. How many people you have on the team?
Um, I have four people on my team. So I have a couple of bookkeepers, an office manager, and another CPA that works for me.
Amazing, amazing. So one amazing man helped you, get going. It takes a lot of self-awareness to do that. And you took that, you ran with it, and now here we are today. So let's talk about the cash flow issues that business owners may have and Profit First and all that. So for people that don't know, there's two types of people: people that don't know about Profit First, and then people who do know that still, for some reason or another, not implementing it in their business. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the first people. So what is it and why is it important?
So Profit first, it doesn't replace your bookkeeping or your accounting or your tax. All of those principles and all that still apply. What it is a cash flow management system. So it is setting up multiple bank accounts within the business, and each account essentially has its own reasoning. So we always start with an income account, a profit account, owner's pay, tax, and your operating expenses. So what we do is throughout, the month, money is being deposited into that income account and it sits there until your allocation day, which is at whatever set schedule you want it to be. And then you take all of the money in that account and transfer it to the other accounts in the business at set percentages. So that means you're setting aside money for tax, which is huge. I've had so many conversations with business owners that have a tax bill, but they have no money to pay it. And the stress involved in that is outrageous. So setting you up for success with having tax set aside, we're ensuring it's profit, you're setting aside profit. And the difference with profit, like on your P&L, you can have a 10% profit on your P&L, but that doesn't reflect an actual cash in the bank account. So in profit first, when we're talking about profit, we mean a physical chunk of cash sitting in a bank account. So making sure that actual profit is set aside, that the owner's getting paid. One thing we see a lot is owners are working their butts off in their businesses and they're not getting paid what they're worth. If they were to have to hire someone to come in and do the job they're doing, they would most likely pay them a lot more than what they're paying themselves. So setting aside a reasonable salary or wage for the owner to ensure they're getting paid for that. And then essentially what's left over is the operating expenses. And so if you're going throughout the month and your operating expense account is getting lower and lower and you don't think you're going to make it till your next allocation day, that is a very good sign that you're overspending or your company's not bringing in enough money to support your current state of business. So you got to make some changes.
Amazing. It basically a way to plan ahead of time and plan properly and have the right systems to not to run your company to the ground, basically.
Exactly. Because when we look at our financial statements, we're looking at what's already happened. We're looking at history. And that's if, depending on how far back you're looking, is how up to date your books are. When we're dealing with profit first, we're dealing with what is in the bank account right now and what are we going to be able to afford tomorrow because of that. So it's just more in the moment and present.
I love that. Let's talk about some of the people. Okay, now I know this. Maybe there's a lot of business owners that are aware of the concept, but they are not sure what the next steps are. So what would you tell them?
So typically with Profit First, I would say read the book. And I think the beauty of this system is that at the core, it's a very simple system. Many people read the book and implement it on their own. Um, that's what I love about it. But if you want to just get started very basic, just start opening up extra bank accounts in the business and setting aside a percentage for that. I always say, yes, it's called profit first, but tax can be a huge issue. So I always recommend set up a tax account. Then when you get used to that, you can set up a profit account and just slowly build up to those accounts. If you're like, oh, I don't want to open all five at once because that seems really weird and I'm not used to five bank accounts. That's not normal way of doing business. That's the biggest pushback we typically get is I'm not opening up five bank accounts. That's stupid. But it's like one call to your bank, like 10 minutes of pain for setting your business up for success in the future. It seems like a no-brainer, but
Yeah, I mean, my bank, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them, you guys can do it like online. Like it's literally, for me personally, it's like open like maybe 5 or 10 clicks. So like to open
yeah.
another one and they're the same. So like whether it's 5 clicks or one phone call, it's you don't have to physically go. It's like no brainer, absolutely. So read profit first. If you're not a reader, get the audiobook, which is sounds like me and you are those type of people, Shannon. And then probably at some point, when should they consider, okay, well, this is going above my head, or at some point, when should they consider working with a professional versus just doing it themselves, Shannon?
So I always recommend bringing on a professional when you're just scared of your finances. And that's a very like a reality for a lot of people. They're the type that put their head in the sand because they just don't understand like finances and money, and it really scares them. It's like me, I don't have a marketing brain. I have to hire you to figure out my marketing. Some people just really need that support in getting something like this set up. So definitely for that, or if you have the system implemented, but you feel like you could do more with it. There's more like a couple of advanced principles that we also work with clients on, or like a little bit bigger companies where it's just we're in the weeds with them and actually doing the stuff for them.
Amazing, Shannon. Tell me, tell me some of your favorite case studies where your firm has been able to help, turn things around or save money or create more money for some of these businesses that you work with.
Yeah. Um, a lot of times, especially with the last, with the whole COVID thing, I had one client who they sell clothing for dancers. So obviously during that time, people weren't out doing their dancing and stuff like that because like all that recreational stuff was shut down. But he was able to stay open and keep some employees on because he had built up like the emergency savings account that we do with it, um, to order to get him through until he was able to open back up. So that's a huge one, because I have worked with a lot of other businesses who did not have that and they had to close their doors completely because they didn't have anything saved up. Um, I had another client, she came to me and had to her a very large line of credit that was providing a lot of stress for her that had built up over the years. And when we first looked at it, we're like, she thought it would take her like 2 to 3 years to get this line of credit paid off. And we were able to get it paid off within 11 months. And
Wow.
like, it's just a lot of times with money, it's the stress that weighs it down for you. Like, so when we can talk to a client and they're just like, you can see the weight lifted off them, being like, "Oh, I've been dealing with that for so long. Thank you for helping me like get this in place and figure it out. Like now I can really focus on my business and grow it versus worrying about paying off that tax debt or my line of credit."
I'm just writing some stuff down because I'm like, shit, gotta pay attention myself. So would you say, since you brought it up on the first case, would you say that the emergency fund is like something that everybody should absolutely have? And if so, how would you implement it for someone? Hey, real quick, they just want to get one nugget. What would be a good rule of thumb to get it done?
Yeah, I definitely think that emergency savings are key for a business, and the size of it is really up to you. Depending if you want like 3 months expenses, 6 months expenses, you make that decision on your own, depending on your business. But the simplest way is set up a savings account and start putting a percentage of money to it on a regular basis. I never say a set amount of money, like say, $1,000 a month, because that can set you up for failure when your revenues dip a little bit, and you have to cover expenses or you have a big purchase and then you can't make that $1,000 payment. Then you feel like, oh, I'm a bit of a failure. I couldn't do it this month. But when you set it up as a set percentage, you can still put some money aside even when revenues are down. When revenues are up, you can, be saving even more. So you can just start small like that. When we do it through Profit First, we do it a very specific way. And it has to do with your quarterly profit distributions and how we set that aside and use it for your emergency savings.
Amazing. Is there a recommended minimum percentage that you would say? Because like, yeah, because I probably I have something like that. I have something like that set up, but I don't know if it's the right number for me. So how would you calculate that?
To calculate that, I would start with figuring out what your emergency savings should be. So when you're going into like an emergency that could happen, like if your business shuts down, you're not going to have all of your same expenses that you do today because you may have to let go of staff. You may be cutting as many subscriptions and things that you're not going to need while times are a little bit low. So your expenses are probably on a monthly basis going to be less than it is now. So try and figure that out. Like, what am I going to be able to cut? What's going to be a reasonable amount? Do I want to keep all my employees on? So is that a goal that I want if ever something happened? What's that number essentially? And then figure out how long do you want to give yourself to save for this? Because you're not going to be able to just set that money aside, you know, over the next 2 months. You're going to have to plan for this. So just, figure out if you want to do it over 12 months or 2 years. Take that number divided by the number of months you want to save for it. That's going to give you roughly what you want to save per month. And then divide that by your average revenue for the month. And that's going to give you a rough percentage that you can start with. So you may be starting like even 1%. Like some people, that might be all that they can afford, but at least they're doing it. They're at least putting some money aside. And then you can work that percentage up until it's saved. And then once that money's saved, it just sits there. Definitely put it in some sort of savings account that's going to grow with some interest. We don't want it just sitting there doing nothing. But and then at that point, that percentage that you've been setting aside to savings gets to go to somewhere else, hopefully profit. But
Makes sense. This is super helpful. Makes me think about some of these things. Makes me think about where are we putting our free cash flow in as well to reinvest or put it into something more safe, whatever it is. Very good. Shannon, what do you think makes you different from all these other firms out there?
I think there's a big teaching component in what I do. Like I really enjoy sitting down and going over the financials with a client in a way that they understand it. I like they're coming to me for advice and my expertise. I don't want to just spew a bunch of numbers that goes right over their head. I want them to leave our meetings knowing what we talked about and just like kind of being a guiding light for them. So always providing a teaching element to it. And then obviously the profit first. Like not a lot of firms are doing profit first. The percentage is actually very small. Um, and it's so important though, because it's our cash flow. Like cash is king. Like we need to be helping business owners with that.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, we're very educational as well. So I'm glad. I think being a resource and just like marketing agencies, there's accounting firms that don't want you to know as much as possible, try to hide information away, not even explain stuff, which is a huge disadvantage to the business owner. So I love that. That is the angle on your end, Shannon. Any last words or pieces of advice that you want to add to for the business owners out there that may need some help?
I would just say, even if you're not interested in the whole profit first methodology, I highly recommend implementing some components of it, like saving for tax. That's a huge thing that every business owner should be doing and can easily do. So like start small, open up one or two accounts. You'll definitely thank yourself come tax time. Um, if that were to, you know, if you have a big tax bill, having the money there is huge.
Wow, I love that so much. Shannon, this has been amazing. I've learned a lot myself. Where can people go and find more about you?
Just on my website, it's just brunning.ca. And you can always reach out to me and have a conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. It was good
Thanks,
to hear
Armand.
from you. Okay.